Good morning. It's the 23rd of September 2023. It's a lovely bright morning, not cold or anything, great morning. We're past the equinox, the autumn equinox or the fall equinox, where the days and nights are the same length. Now, just to develop a bit more on this here, I know some people mightn't feel it that important, but we have to cover what's happening, even though what mightn't be obvious to us mightn't interest us, but still it will eventually come that way. Now, one of the things is that Brexit proved that there was more than 50% of the British people who were not for the green agenda. It stands to reason that if this green climate change business was taken seriously by the population of Britain, they would say, well, we can't tackle this on our own. We need a combined EU laws and system and plans to deal with it, particularly where we have to make unpopular decisions in one country which a government might not want to bring in because it might be voted out. If we're in the EU, we can force in certain directives and certain policies on individual states by the majority. That's broadly the idea. Now, that was rejected by the people in Brexit who felt that their sovereignty was under threat. But if they really felt that climate was that big an issue, they'd shelve a little bit of their sovereignty for future generations to have the beautiful planet that is supposed to be planned. Now, the thing is, China went along with this. They made some renewable energy stuff, but in particular they made solar panels, because they have access to the minerals in a lot of parts of the world where the EU doesn't. The Chinese go out and they explore, they buy out and they take out mines and all of that stuff for copper and all those things, whereas the EU tries to shut down these countries. In the United States, they get a big bomb full of some type of high explosive, they write democracy on it, and they fly over some country they don't like and they drop the bomb down on top of them. And the idea is that's going to make that country, which mightn't be totally democratic or even partly democratic, that's going to make it democratic. You see the different approach. The EU just lectures them on telling them that they're climate refugees, while France steals all its uranium and all its gold and all its minerals out of the states that have recently had coups there. And all is hunky-dory. Now, what happens? China goes along with the green stuff, and Hungary is a member of NATO on the extreme east of the European Union, and it has a sensible Viktor Orban-led government. It has a gas pipeline from Russia. He has refused to shut off gas, and indeed it's not even on the table because Germany is still importing a lot of fuel from Russia, and so is other EU countries. President Putin has recently cut down on the export of refined petrol and diesel, and that is because it was selling so well. It was cutting off some of his friendlier nations to the south. Is it Kurdistan and these countries? It was leaving them with no fuel. And during a threatened famine in Argentina a while back, the Argentinian government stopped the export of food. And in the famine in Ireland in the 1840s, the British government could have shut off the export of food from Ireland, and that would have helped greatly to relieve the famine, but the money was more important than the lives and the suffering of the people. So it just shows you different regimes have different policies. So Hungary is a member of NATO, and the USA, Britain, and maybe some other actors, probably with the acquiescence of Ukraine, have bombed and blown up Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2, one of Germany's main gas suppliers. Putin was turning them on and off, but he wasn't cutting them off fuel completely. They're still buying Russian fuel, but not through those two pipelines. So Viktor Orban could see that if they could blow up the land one, the one that comes from Russia to Hungary, they would. There's no doubt they would do it. And he has told them, he is on record there as saying it. You touch that and I'll deal with yous. If they try to blow up the pipeline, not alone will it be quickly repaired, but he will treat it as an act of war. And you would have a de facto Russia Hungarian attack on the rest of the world and on the US. They might react by blowing up a ship or doing some destructive act. And that would mean a NATO country attacking the majority of the NATO countries. So Orbán has told them straight, you keep away from that gas pipeline. So while the rest of Europe is in trouble with fuel, Hungary is doing quite grand. It's doing all right. It has a guaranteed supply. The way Orbán is playing it, Russia's not going to cut off the supply. Now, China comes along now and says, we're going to invest 25 billion, I think it's euros or dollars, the two is nearly the same, in a Hungarian electric car plant. The wages are less in Hungary. This is going to seriously improve employment in Hungary. People in farms and all that will be able to get little jobs in this, and there'll be spin-off industries and everything. There'll be China will be running the show, but they'll work with Hungary to make it be a happy experience for everybody. So they have the relatively cheap fuel. China has all the raw materials. China can pull cobalt and nickel and all that out of Russia. There's a huge big mine in Siberia in Russia. It's one of the coldest occupied places in the world. The EU can stop Russia exporting minerals and metals to it and to America and to Canada, but they can't stop Russia exporting to China. And once China gets the commodity, they can smelt it down and do what they wish with it, and nobody will know where it is sourced. So you have a simple way to get around the whole Western global cultural Marxist globalist, the whole damn thing. A simple way to get around. Use their own craving for electric vehicles to push out their own car manufacturing. It's faltering in Germany, it's faltering in France. It could go in Germany and France the same as British car manufacturing went 30 to 40 years ago at Dagenham and everywhere else. There's huge strikes going on in American car manufacturing companies. Not deal with it too much now. There's huge dissatisfaction there. Something's not quite right there either. Now, what I would advise the Chinese and Hungarians to do is see can, in addition to the EV market, see can they produce good quality petrol and diesel cars and vans. In Hungary, you could get a lot of German technicians moving to Hungary, or even going on a holiday basis, just tipping over now and again. There's a new rail link going to be built to Serbia. That rail link is part of the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative. Where's the European structural funds? All gone into green junk. So you see how the Americans and the Europeans play poker, the Russians and the Chinese play chess. And they can figure out the consequences of their actions. So the Russian sanctions are circumvented. Russia's selling its product. It's making money producing electric vehicles for the European market to the detriment of the European manufacturers. All the fuel they need is there. The EU car market is stuck for fuel, for electricity, with the hugely expensive electricity, for the chips, the microchips, which now China, I've said in another video, has managed to perfect. And Russia is I'm told, a bigger, more advanced microchip manufacturer than China, because Russia has a lot of weapons which are made on this technology. And so if there's any problem developing the correct software and microchips and all of this stuff, lithography and all that, well, China only has to turn to Russia. No one need even know they're doing it. They can bring the machines across, nobody's going to know, and Bob your uncle. So that's nickel, let's say, and cobalt, stuff like that, and also lithium, which China dominates the market. Before too long, You'll have good employment in Hungary. Hungary will be the darling of the EU countries. It has a good government, in my opinion, and it's someplace I hope to maybe visit someday. I think it's one of the better European states, one of the most freedom-loving EU states. And the EU will be loaded up with Chinese cars. And I would not say these will be junk. I mean, the smartphones are mostly Chinese, and the laptop computers are, I've had them for years, they're Chinese. And you get what you pay for. So if they can make laptop computers, they can make electric cars. And the problem for Europe, where are they going to get the power to power them? Well, you sell a lot of cars before that problem comes to the fore. Where all this electricity is going to come from in Europe, it's no issue with the Chinese. The Chinese can now produce their cars with no imported fuel, with Russia fuel used to do it, with labour from Hungary, and plenty of Chinese occupying Hungary, going over there on temporary secondment, and a lovely, neat system producing these cars to the benefit of China and the benefit of Hungary, and no migrants allowed. So as the economies improve of Hungary and China, the migrants will not be allowed in. Hungary have built a big barrier, so the migrants can flow into Dublin, flow into Britain, flow into anywhere they like, but Hungary is going to be protected. So the citizens of Hungary, a bit like Norway, are going to benefit from this great masterstroke of economics, of political footwork, and all of that. So that's how the Chinaman, they used to say the yellow man will rule the world. That's what's happening in that particular area. Meanwhile, Richie Sunak has tried to row back on his electric car racket and all this. I know deep down in his heart he loves it, but he's in the position where he'll be out on his ear with Labour running the whole show with mad green stuff. Absolutely mad green stuff. And Labour voters, if faced with the choice of Labour, Greta Thunberg, mad net zero crap, or a Tory government where they seem, at least for the time being, to shelve it, they will change over as they did for Brexit, because a lot of Labour voters voted for Brexit. Now I hope that puts that thing into perspective and not stay on too long. You can see that the whole nutty green renewable energy, all that other things are a complete cod and going to impoverish the Western world. I'll try and post a few videos that are on that, a few very highly educated people explaining this, that you can't do this green stuff is impossible. But what you can do, you can waste and spend loads of real money, loads of printed money, and destroy your entire financial system in the attempt. We'll see you back for something else, folks. Comment underneath, make them sensible. A thumbs up if you agree, and a thumbs down if you don't agree. Bye bye.